Welcome you to the March meeting. We've just got a quorum. There's a few away today. Anyway, we'll proceed, and I'd call for apologies.
We have apologies from councillors Dixon, Moore, Galvin and Egan.
Somebody like to move we accept those apologies? Councillor Dick, Councillor Young. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Against, no, carried. Would somebody like to move the confirmation of the minutes of the previous council meeting held on Thursday the 25th of February?
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Colton, thank you. Seconded, Councillor Smith. Put that motion, those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, no, carried. Now, our first item is a presentation from Chris Turner on economic business development presentation. Chris, I welcome you to the floor, and you can take over from here.
Sit up there. He's still eating breakfast.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to share this with you today. There's two parts to the presentation. The first part is to do with the marketing campaign that we're going to roll out. And you've all, in your notes, got a full version of these presentations. What we'll go through today is a slightly abridged version, just for the sake of time. If you want to read a bit more about it, you can go back to your notes. So the aim of this was to find and nurture tree changers with a view of having them choose the Guida region as their new home base while travelling the country, as well as finding residents from other regions looking for new opportunities. We're going to try and achieve that by highlighting events that already happen in the region with a 6-month campaign involving content, print advertisement, digital advertising and marketing automation. And how that'll work in layman's terms, as you see, we've got the Caravan World, Camper Traveller Australia and Trader RV magazine logos there. So they're all part of the Empires Group that is running this campaign for us. They also have the Wanderer magazine. We're not using the Wanderer magazine at this time because the Wanderer magazine, at the same time as this campaign is running, will already be running campaigns about our Shire in the lead up to the CMCA rally. So what we're doing is we're plugging this campaign in alongside the timelines of the rally, and the aim is for us to be able to engage a large number of people, tell them about the Shire, encourage them to visit and also participate in the rally, but at the same time end up with a list of qualified leads of people who may be thinking about a tree change. And then we can reach out to them in a more meaningful way and engage with them and make this the place that feels like they want to make the next move to. Each magazine will have advertisements in it. That's an example of one of the advertisements. Each time an advertisement appears, it'll be accompanied by a feature story about the Shire. And the feature story will be a teaser for them to head over to the online version, because when they click on the online version, we capture their IP address. And as soon as that happens, the next time they open Facebook, they'll get advertisements about Guida Shire, events we might have on, what it's like to come live here, that sort of stuff.
Chris, does that QR code take them to the website, does it?
Yeah, so what we'll actually do, that was a very good segue there. If has somebody got a mobile phone with a camera? Or who's got a mobile phone with a camera? We'll just,
Everybody.
yeah,
Yeah.
have a go. I'm risking
Don't
my
we
neck
all?
here, aren't I?
Yep.
And this is the moment when the QR code doesn't work, but anyway, let's see how we go, Francis. Okay, you got it. So you can subscribe now.
Thanks. Just what I want. So how
Well,
do
you can keep an eye on what's happening if you subscribe.
sign up for
Who else has got
VIP
one?
access to learn more
Yeah, something
about
like
the
that.
shop?
You going for it, Max?
Oh, it'd be all right, I've already subscribed,
Yep.
I think.
I can't find my phone.
That's all right.
You have to ring me.
No, that's all right. Anybody else?
I'll get them
Mine might
out.
be too old to do with it.
We'll see.
Click itself.
It should just do itself. Have you done QR codes on here before? No. No, maybe it doesn't do QR codes, eh?
No, there we go.
You want to talk to council about getting them on modern phone?
Yeah.
Yeah, look, here we go. Now get your camera up.
Yep.
Just click camera, that's it. Okay, now,
No, I've got it here.
That?
Is it?
Have you got your voucher yet?
and I'll take it to the page.
Oh, like it's pretty easy, you've got to
Six.
prove who you are.
Now, what you, for those that managed to register or click onto that QR code then, what you'll see is that at the very top, it's just asked you to subscribe, because some people will be going, I know that this is about subscription and I land here, I'm going to subscribe now, and they'll do that. But some people will be wondering what it's all about. And so then there's information there about how beautiful the region is. There's a little video that plays with some lovely footage. There's stuff about tourism and lifestyle. And then we move down to actually talking about tree change, and encouraging them to come along to achieve tree change. Now you'll see the format of that advertisement, we've got the horse riding there. It's actually the same advertisement there with just a different image in the background, and the same one there with a different image in the background. And they, as I said, will run right next to the feature article in the magazine. And everything about it is about trying to move these people along the pipeline from reading a story to connecting and becoming subscribers. And if we go to this last screen here, if we focus on those white squares in the middle, we've got the print ads and the print content that I've been talking about. From there, we want them to end up on that landing page that some of you have just landed on. Or we want to, remember the story will be in a abridged version of the story, and it'll say read more here. So then we want them to click onto the website. That's when we get their IP address. And then when we get their IP address, we send them the digital ads and the campaign. If we go to that middle row again, we follow along. The aim of the landing page is to get subscribers. Once we've got a subscriber, we can send them emails. So once a month then, they'll get a newsletter. And in that newsletter, it might be what we're doing this month in the Shire, what's exciting. It might be a story about someone who moved here 3 years ago and has loved it and thinks it's wonderful. Everything designed to keep moving them down that funnel. They've come into the top of the funnel with the story, and we want to keep moving them down that funnel, and at the very bottom is they're moving to our community. Now, as we move along in those letters, those emails that they'll get, there'll be things that help us qualify them as a contact. So what we'll be doing is we'll be might ask them questions in the email. We might ask them if they're interested in more information about something. And if we get a reaction from them, if we get something back, we know they're engaged. And so they sort of go up on our priority list of, okay, let's reach out a bit more to these people, see if there's anything we can do to further assist them. You'll see the next box there says concierge pipeline. And what we've developed is this idea that they might need a concierge. In order to actually get over the line and move here, they might need a problem solver here on the ground. And that's a role that I would play myself. And if you go down to the bottom of the landing page that some of you just subscribed to, you'll see there's contact details and check in with our tree change concierge. Now the last important part of this part of the presentation, if we go to the yellow or cream boxes above those ones we just talked about, you'll see the flow of what we're trying to achieve. So get them onto the landing page, etc., is a soft sell on the regional opportunities and asking them to subscribe. The next one says KPI 2,400 subscribers within 6 months. Now, that's not just a number that has been made up to go, oh, that sounds like a good number, let's go for that. If you go right to the other end, you'll see it says KPI 6 new residents by 2023 as a direct result of the campaign. So that 2,400 is reverse engineered from the 6 new residents. What we know from digital advertising and marketing around the world is that if we want to end up with those 6, then before that we need to get 12 highly engaged prospects. So people who've come through that pipeline are showing real interest and are saying, yep, I do want to move. And to get those 12, we know that we'll need to get 2,400 people onto that subscribers list. Now, whether we can get 2,400 on the subscribers list is, we don't know. That's based on the fact that we want to get 6 new residents. But I will point out that if we get one family, mum and dad and a couple of kids, and they move this community, over 10 years, that's worth $3.5 million to our economy. So if we've got 6 of them, well, gee, that would be fantastic. But success to me would be if we got 1. That's $3.5 million additional into our economy. So that's the end of that first part of the presentation. The next part, there are some links back into this. But I thought we'd just double check if there's any questions about this information at this point. All good?
So there was just one thing there. I remember when we were talking to the Enterprise people, they were said the use of cookies, and that will happen, will it? So
Yeah.
you need to probably explain how that works.
So when
So you get the right
But
thing.
when we said, and they click on the website and we get their IP address, that's the cookie part of it.
Mm.
So we click on that website. It's the same as when you go on Google and you search up something about home cooked bread, and next time you go on Facebook, you get an ad for a bread making machine. It's exactly that same process.
Yeah.
Thanks for that clarification.
Just a question. Do we
Yes.
have to declare that we're collecting that information?
Which
Because-
information?
Or
They-
their IP address and all that? Because sometimes you see when you look at something else, there's something comes up and say, you know, we use these cookies, and you have to
Oh, okay.
accept them. You
Yeah,
have to
so
accept
what-
all of their.
Yeah, that's not us.
That's not us. Okay,
No,
that's
so
good.
that landing page is actually Enterprise's landing page,
Right.
like we're controlling it. But when people engage with Enterprise, they might get that cookie message, but we don't do it. And then when they actually, once they're subscribers, then they're giving it, giving it just permission to send those emails. We can't send the emails unless they subscribe.
And does Enterprise hold all of that information, or does just Squatter Shire?
The data?
Yeah.
No, they will record the data and we'll get the data from them.
Right. So do they use the data for anything else?
No.
Chris, Chris, I think we should be telling the councillors too, we're involving the real estate agents.
Oh, good.
From the very beginning and all this
I
as
just wrote
well.
those down, yeah.
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 So part of that process is I've been meeting with both Amanda from Ray White and Anne from J.M. McGregor's, and we've been talking about what do we think it would take to get people to tree change to come here. And part of the outcome of that is that the 3 of us are going to start meeting every 2 to 4 weeks over a coffee and just having a chat about that and how we might work together. We're seeing ourselves as something a bit like a tree change group. And the first little get together was meant to be a couple of days ago, which obviously,
Didn't happen.
obvious reasons didn't happen. But as an example of what that little group can achieve, when we think about who we want here in our community, and you'll see when we get to this presentation that one of the ideal groups of people we love here would be say, a tradie, let's imagine a plumber comes with his partner and a couple of kids. So we've said, well, what would it mean to get them here? And we're pushing through the Blue Hills and Jacaranda residential developments, and they'll come to market in time for the CMCA rally, and they'll be part of this campaign. And so then we're thinking, well, how can we incentivise that plumber to get interested in those blocks of land and come along? And we identified that an idea would be, for instance, we could delay the need for them to pay for the block of land. Remembering that the plumber and his wife are actually worth $3.5 million to us. So the block of land, the return on the block of land is probably less consequential than significant than the actual end outcome. We could delay that. We then thought, well, what's going to be difficult for them then is how they're going to get finance if they're going to move here and start a business as a plumber, but they haven't got serviceability for the loan. So that group I've told you about, we've reached out to Regional Australia Bank, and Wayne Hoppy was due to come and sit down with us. He said, I think I've got some solutions for that. And this will be part of that tree change concierge. So when that plumber hits that moment, he goes, I don't know what to do about this, we'll go, oh, well, we can help you with that, and this is who you need to talk to, and we'll facilitate that part. So thanks for clarifying that, Max. So this part is to do with a survey of the economy that we did. And this links up obviously back into our marketing, and you'll even see things that are coming out in this survey. You'll see we've already talked about them in the marketing. We're already pulling information out of this survey to say, well, this is the direction that the marketing campaign will take as well. So the purpose was to look at the nature of the COVID-19 impact and any continued impact from the drought, the canvas of views of the business community, seek statistical information of the economic base, create a high-level perspective for revising the economic development strategy. This slide isn't in your notes, it's something I just added because I thought it would help provide context for our discussion today. They're just the high-level things that stood out from the survey. One is that we had a really good representative sample across a range of businesses. That COVID has been highly discriminatory. It's hit some businesses very hard and benefited others, but people are optimistic about the future. 75 to 80% of businesses believe the drought is still biting to some degree, and with our high degree of dependence on agriculture, this is something to keep in mind. We should pursue cost-effective ways of promoting the Shire, e.g. social media advertising, perhaps trial adventure sports events and create new visitor experiences. With the business environment, to promote and support existing businesses, provide programs to encourage people to pursue a business idea, e.g. mentoring, encourage people to have a go, and finally, prepare a simple, concise economic development action plan. You can see at the end of the presentation a list of strategies and priorities from our existing economic development strategy, and it's quite complicated. And I think it doesn't necessarily marry with the size of the Shire or the resources we've got to drive something like that. So I think we do need to think about making things really simple and concise that are within our reach, rather than having a document that is great, but perhaps we don't have the resource to really push through one. So that's important. That's how many people are employed by various businesses, and you'll see that over 60% are sole traders or 1 to 4 employees. So we're pretty dependent on those small businesses. I was interested to see that about 10%, which is 3 businesses, so there was 30 businesses completed this, about 10% employ more than 20. So there are some larger employers, and we probably should be thinking about how we talk specifically with them about developing the economy. How's COVID impacted? Interestingly, 30% didn't really think it had an impact. 15% thought a 10 to 30% increase, and about, what is, so about 15, 25% or so saw a decrease. So that's where that discriminatory nature of things is coming in. There are some businesses that have absolutely boomed in that time, and there are some that have really done it much tougher. To what extent is the drought still impacting? It's good that very much is only about 15%. Interestingly, it's also, I think it was about 15% of businesses were agricultural based, so I don't know if that's the same 15%. But when you take somewhat into account, that's between 75 and 80% of businesses in the community think the drought is still hitting. So it does sort of, when you talk to people, they're not talking much about the drought, but it is saying that it's still an issue for us, and probably anyone that's tried to buy cattle in the last little while would think it's a big issue. So yeah, we need to think, that tells us about how are we going to think about the next drought and what's our preparedness for that. This is a great outcome. Virtually 60% of people think that sales are going to increase in the next 6 to 12 months. And if you add in the stay the same, then you've got 80% of businesses have a positive sense of the future, that's really outstanding. I think it's interesting that 15% unsure, and probably suggests there's a few people out there still feeling a bit battered and bruised by the whole thing from a business perspective. So what could be done to increase tourism and the visitor economy? We won't run through all of them, but the top 4 there, our natural attractions, which we would expect that would be the case. New visitor experiences, e.g. mountain biking. Now there was one particular person pushed mountain biking a lot, but 17 people selected that in the survey, so it is something that we could be thinking about. Social media campaign showcasing the hidden gems, and you'll see on those advertisements we clicked on with the QR code, discover the hidden gems of Guarda Shire. So we're taking the information from here already and using it. And then you've got better signage south of Tamworth, attracting people to the west. Well, that's a bigger activity than just Guarda Shire, but it is something that can be raised with the other shires.
Chris, there's another, I think it needs something on the Newell Highway, just out of Narrabri, sending them across. There's nothing there. Yeah.
I would think that would be more of a priority than this.
I do too.
Yeah. And that's the sort of thing that we can include, take out of this, and then include in our economic development strategy moving forward. So highlighted feedback from interviews around the business environment. We need to make it attractive. We need more advertising. Beautification. Warriata streets look really dull compared to Bingara. Empty shops need to be filled. Welcome packs, being proactive, getting involved with the community. There's a lack of trades. There needs to be support and encouragement for people to help get them started. And just to explain, this feedback, where that's coming from, is prior to the survey, the people that did the survey for us rang local businesses to talk to them, and that shaped the questions that actually went into the survey. So that's why, for instance, we had a question about that said more visitor experiences, e.g. mountain biking, because in the interviews someone talked about that. So they put that in there, and 17 out of 31 people thought, yeah, that's a high priority. So this is how we got the questions. What can be done to improve the Guarda Shire area for business? 61% promote the existing small business in the area. Encourage more young people to start their own business. And that's one that I think we could really take up, particularly with the Human Services team. and look at how we might engage the youth council in that and see what we can do to achieve that. Promote the affordability of housing in the area. That's where we're pushing the residential lots. Attract people who have begun working from home during COVID-19. As an example, in that marketing campaign, there's no reason why we can't, for instance, have a social media advertisement that pops up and says, did you know Gwydir Shire never had a recorded case of COVID-19? There's no reason why we can't say something like that. It might be tempting fate, but there's no reason why we can't say that. And then they're improving the level of networking between business owners. I think that's something that council will be in a position to assist with. Feedback from interviews around business attraction, or what people want to. They want building supplies and trades for the towns. There's nothing in town, e.g. trades. Food, we need more food outlets. Locals looking for something more. That influenced the nature of the questions about those things, and you'll see in some of the slides that are coming up, it's really, those two things are coming through really strongly. So what products or services do you want locally but you can't get suppliers for? And bang, number one, building and hardware, number two, restaurants, options, etc. Then other retail, clothing and shoes, well that fits with other retail as well. A higher quality and variety of fresh produce, so they're the main ones. But you'll see those top two, that theme coming through in a number of the slides. What sort of businesses should we be targeting? Well, people think trades and engineering services, restaurants, vehicle sales, fuel and servicing. That one probably was a little bit of a surprise. Manufacturing, processing and industrial services, but definitely those top two get our attention. What are the biggest barriers for growth? Attracting people, and trying to do that with our marketing campaign. Telecommunications network and finding suitable local staff rather than their housing. I was a little bit surprised with the telecommunications network. I actually think it's pretty good. And I discovered recently that you've got fibre to the house with NBN. Well, that's better than most city places. So that side of it's good.
You're only talking the towns. You talk the whole Shire. You talk the whole Shire, it's pretty poor.
Not wrong.
Yeah.
You drive around and try and make a phone call.
Yeah, I guess what I'm thinking though is when I drive around a lot of country areas. For instance, I drove from Perth to Brisbane via Bingara, and admittedly I had Vodafone, but this was the only place I had any coverage. The whole trip.
It's in town.
Yeah, in town.
Yeah, well,
But,
I
no,
think
I agree.
we're going wider than towns, I hope, with
Sorry?
this. I hope we're going a bit wider than the towns
Yeah.
with this. I mean, there's a big rural industry out there.
Yeah, no question about it. The reason I am surprised is not that I don't think it can be improved, but I think it's actually better than a lot of other similar places. Well, that's just my personal experience anyway.
Yeah.
It is better than I would have thought. And I'm in the group of people that don't get that coverage where I live. So I live with that. I know the stress that you're talking about. So this next couple of slides are about our area. I really think we need the next census to be sure what this chart is telling us, but 2006, 5,311 people. 2011, that's a very significant drop. And then 2016, back up again. And you can see the median age going from 43 years to 45 and then accelerating
I suspect
to
it will,
48
yeah.
years.
But
If
it's
you imagine we
interesting,
had that
the
next
average age
bar
is going up,
going
which
along,
indicates we're not getting
2000,
families, getting older, retired.
if the population was a little bit less than 5,258, it would suggest that that middle bar is just an anomaly.
It seems a bad
And
one.
we really need that next bit of data. Because at the moment we'd say, population's growing, that's really good, and we want that to be true, we want to believe that. But I would like to see that next bar before I can confidently say our population is growing.
Chris, I think the next bar will be lower. After the drought, we've lost a lot of staff, yeah.
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 And that really needs to inform our economic development moving forward.
It's a result of the weather more than anything else. But people were out of work. There was no work for 4 years, and so people actually left.
Okay. Well, that might make
Still
more
with
sense.
kids.
So that next slide as well, which is unemployment. And the three bars that you got there is Wider Shire, the red one is regional New South Wales, and the green one is Australia. And you've got, in 2006, regional New South Wales obviously struggling, and Wider and Australia fairly similar. In 2011, Wider's decreased somewhat, and 2016 it's decreased. That could be to do with people exiting, if that's what you think is going on.
Since then, it was just the drought, the 4-year dry. So it was 16 to 20. Yeah.
Well, that'll be interesting to see what the next lot of figures reflect on that too. What it does give us though, is it does give us something positive to talk about, regardless of what we think might be going on there in our marketing. We certainly can talk about the low level of unemployment that we've got. So that's a positive. This is a slide I mentioned to you that has the priority strategies and actions from our current economic development strategy. And the things that I've highlighted there are things that I think we could put a bit more focus on and perhaps do a bit of an action plan around. And they link back to the answers in the survey. We have proactive and supportive council, enhance lifestyle and livability, ensure that there is suitable residential, industrial and commercial land and premises available to facilitate growth. It's great that we're able to bring those residential blocks, Blue Hills and Jacaranda, to market. It would be outstanding if we could also bring the Warialda Industrial Estate to market. And I think we do need to have a think about ways, simple ways we may be able to move in that direction. I know previously Max has mentioned to me that someone was looking for some, that we could probably sell them some land in there. So perhaps we could think about getting a bit more proactive about that. And then of course targeting new residents and
Yeah, we tried.
new business investment and economic activities. Further to the telephone interviews that were done, Wider needs to be a can-do council. Wider needs to be a box. As a local business person, I see a lot of opportunities. There are opportunities for people that want to come here and have a go. It will take some lateral thinking, but there are opportunities. And so we can take thinking like that and put that into our strategy and action plan.
Yeah, we obviously need to bring Buckingham. Yeah.
Very good.
Any questions about those ones?
And beat the shit out of
I
it.
have a question. You said 30 businesses answered the survey.
31. Yeah.
31. How many businesses in total? Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head. How many are there?
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
So we didn't do that. Yeah.
Yeah. 30 is recognised as a critical number for the survey.
Right.
In terms of statistical relevance, we needed to get to 30. What the research tells us is if we survey 30, the answers we'll get will be pretty much the same as if we surveyed 60, 90 or 100.
Okay.
But if we're less than 30, it's not so reliable. So that's why we pushed, for a little while there we had about 20 and they sort of slowed down. So we took time and made sure we got to the 30 so that we could rely on the statistics.
Good.
Chris, I've got a few things I'd like to mention to you. Firstly, your bit there about have a go, I think is very relevant. I'll give you an example. We had a thriving machine shop in Warialda a few years ago. Work banked up, couldn't handle the work. Marital problems, and he left, and it closed up, and it's all gone. There's an opening there, if somebody wants to have a go. The the other thing you haven't mentioned is the development of the inland rail.
Yes.
I thought that would be a very attractive thing to put in your advertising, the fact that there'll be looking for 200 jobs on the north start of the border section, and there are 300 jobs at Moree, and, you know, people will come and go out of those jobs, so there's always going to be employment there. And I think that needs to be mentioned, that
I didn't mention that in the presentation,
What is
but that is on the list of things to include in the feature stories and in the newsletters that go out to people, because you did raise that when Enterprise did the presentation to us, and that was taken note of, and it's very relevant.
Righto, yeah, okay. Well, that'll do me. I think the other people have questions. You'll be aware, I hope you've been included in the discussions with the industrial area in Morialda, but we are starting to get a little bit excited there with progress that we're making. And we've got a meeting next week with the company. They've already signed, they haven't signed up, but they've already agreed to put a small solar farm there, as you're probably aware, I hope.
We're going to have a dog pound there too.
Yeah, but they're also talking about now, maybe they're into storing nitrogen as a fuel. They've got some new way of doing it, better way, and we will be discussing with them about actually producing nitrogen there. So that will open up for cheap energy and hopefully will attract business. Yes, Councillor.
I think, my opinion is, if we're going to encourage young families, we not only have to have housing blocks to sell, but we also need housing stock. And I just wonder if anybody's done any sort of research on what kind of housing stock we have, if the real estate agents are doing that, collating that information. Yep, and also in the list of things that we need and we haven't got or we're not delivering well was childcare services. I think if we're going to encourage, and I support the encouragement of young families with children because we need them for the schools, we need them for the businesses, whatever. But we don't have aftercare, after-school childcare, and I don't think that should be at the bottom of the list. I think we should be promoting that to be a business opportunity as well, because if they haven't got after-school childcare and they're working full-time, it just becomes a nightmare. It's just a nightmare. It's not a dream at all. It's just a nightmare. So I think we should be promoting that a bit more too.
So with regard to the housing stock, that's part of the agenda for the regular catch-ups with the real estate agents.
That's good.
Is how to progress that. The difficulty we have at the moment is that people who own some of the empty houses don't have a desire to rent them out. When I asked a bit more about it, the feedback I got was there's a significant number who have a sentimental attachment to the house, so they don't want to sell it. Perhaps their parents lived in it, or perhaps they grew up in it, whatever. So they own the house now, and then they don't want to rent it out because they believe that it might get wrecked through poor management. So that's an issue that we, as a group, will keep talking about and trying to think about how we might be able to win that around. And it's probably going to require just basic old spade work of people contacting the owners of those houses and talking to them, and you know, it's probably that sort of responsibility required to address that. The childcare does come through fairly strongly. It's not one of the top ones, but it does come through fairly strongly. And yeah, it is. If both parents are going to work, it is something that becomes essential.
Yep. Thank you.
Chris, I know the Warrialda Chamber's pushing for the childcare bit. Have you made this presentation to the two chambers?
I haven't made, at this point, no. I've had a brief conversation with the chairperson of the Warrialda Chamber. And we're just going a little bit gently with the Bingara Business Support Group. They're tentative would be, or hesitant, I think, I would say, to sort of move to that chamber level.
Yeah.
and I think they're just a bit worried about being overwhelmed, and so we're going quite gently and
Sure.
slowly with them.
I just meant to make sure they're included, feel included and
Definitely.
up to speed with what we're talking about.
Yeah, definitely,
And I realise you had to come here first, but,
yes.
yeah, okay.
But both those groups will be included
Right.
in dialogue about it. and
Mm.
go through.
Yeah.
I've been through this with the two real estate agents, the
Yeah.
relevant bits, and it's quite interesting, the level of interest people have in it.
I wonder, did you speak to Carmel Ann Stevenson, McGregor's and Morialda? I hope that she's aware of this.
Well, I spoke to Anne Reardon,
She does
because
the
she's
real
the
estate.
one doing the residential.
Oh, she's doing residential for
Yeah.
both, that's right. Yeah, yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah.
Chris, have they included, when they're looking at housing, just not urban, they're looking at like empty homes on farms as well? Has that been included in what they're looking for?
I haven't asked that specific question, so I don't know if that's what they were referring to or not.
Because there are quite a few of those as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, there is. I think I heard a figure years ago of 700 empty homes, but a lot of them would need a lot of work doing to them, and they're out of town. I think that that to address the shortage of homes needs to be included in our advertising, and the fact that if we're going to grow, we'll be looking for builders. I really think that's a private sector problem, the housing and the childcare. We can help facilitate it, but we're not going to take it on. And I think that say, this Gwyda's about to grow in population, we'll be looking for developers, or however you want to do it. But
I've got a campaign meeting this afternoon at 4:30 with Emprise, so we'll have a discussion
all
about
right,
that.
yeah. Yes,
Have
Councillor.
we progressed on our small block adjustment things that we were going to do on the outside of the towns? You know, we were going to develop subdivisions and we have to apply to do it or something under our LEP?
There's a review of the LEP that's got to be undertaken sometime soon, and certainly the feedback that we got from the consultation process we've had in the past, that there's a definite market for smaller
Yeah.
rural residential subdivisions on the edge of both Warrialda and Bingra, and we'll be looking at that.
That's what I was getting
We would have
at.
to change a few rules there.
Yes, we would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the minimum now? 40 hectares, is it?
No, no, we're talking about making it a lot smaller than that down
Yeah, I
to-
know, but at the
yeah,
moment,
At the moment, it's.
is it 40 hectares or 100 hectares?
100 hectares.
100 hectares, so we'd have to adjust
We need to
that.
get it smaller
Yeah,
to attract them, yeah.
There are a couple of anomalies in the LEP that need to be fixed, and we'll be able to look at rural res as part of those. One of the anomalies is actually the motel at Warrialda.
Yeah.
For some reason, part of their land was dedicated as an environmental zone,
Oh,
which is causing a problem because the guy wants to expand the motel and he's allowed to do it on the land that he owns, which is just crazy. So we're trying to fix up those issues, and it'll probably be included in their
Yeah.
review of that.
because that could be an attractive thing to sell, you know, through a promotional program.
Well, they usually sell fairly quickly off the plan almost, other
Yeah.
than the ones that are close to sewage treatment plants.
If you start looking now, there's not very much available.
No, no,
So I think that is a good point.
yep.
Do you think, you want to ask any
Yeah,
members that
well,
are here or
that's right.
staff if they've got...
Anybody in the room, welcome to ask a question if you'd like to, Rod. As the paper goes, go for it. Yeah.
They're not listening. Do you have any questions?
Me.
What do you say?
Yeah, yes, Councillor Smith.
Sorry.
Councillor Smith.
I think what we're doing is, I think it's pretty, we're on the right track. But I think the thing we've got to be pretty mindful of, every other little town in New South Wales, probably Australia,
Doing the
doing,
same
or
thing.
was trying to do the same thing.
Yeah,
So we've got to make, whatever we're doing, we've got to make ours a little bit
different.
stand out or be a bit more unique to get people to come, because I know we've been trying to do different things for years and years like this, and you know, you go back to Ted Stubbers with his blocks and all that sort of stuff, and it's hard going, but that's the thing, you know, we've probably got to make our towns and villages in the Shire stand out more than, say, the ones down at Temora or wherever else, because you know, every town the size of our towns are doing the same thing, are in the same position. So, yeah.
I think that's why we're driving down the particular path we're taking with the marketing campaign.
Yeah,
Because we're looking at we're trying to look at what's unique about here. What is it that we can sell here that other people can't sell?
Yep.
Yeah. But, and mate, I'm under no misinterpretation that to achieve the things we're talking about is going to be hard. It's going to be hard. But we have to have a plan and a
We've got to
strategy.
go. Yeah.
That's right. Mm.
I think the point is too that this is a golden opportunity with people trying to, or some people are trying to exit the city because of COVID, and I mean it's very, very evident on the coast. If you try and buy a block at Byron Bay, they're gone. You know, as soon as they hit the market, they're sold, and pretty much the same at the Gold Coast. But I still think there's an opportunity for people to move here. The other thing that concerned me initially with this program or scheme was the demographic you may end up with. We didn't want necessarily, we'll accept everyone of course, but we didn't want them to be entirely older people. And but I was assured by Emperor that there's more and more younger people travelling and using this website or this information line. So that gave me a bit of hope, and we're really, ideally, you want to attract families, mum, dad and the kids. That's what we really want. But we'll take the others as well. But,
Thanks, John.
yeah, well, I'm one of them, so.
Can I just ask, the demographic that you surveyed, was that mainly small businesses, small and large, but businesses in town as opposed to farmers and people?
So
and
the survey was put out for everyone
yeah,
to participate in.
yeah,
The largest group that responded was retail. But I think from memory, 4 agribusinesses were amongst the ones that responded.
is that like the McGregors or is that a farmer?
I
in
wouldn't
town?
know.
Yeah. And what about attracting people, because it seems very Main Street centred?
Yeah, so how
The
do you know?
survey, all the questions and the concerns. I'm just wondering, like, is that attracting people to run an agricultural business out of town? We've got all the facilities to do that
Mhm.
here, set up, ready to go. That's how most of the people here make their living. So, just, is it more about revitalising the towns, or is it attracting people?
I think you'd want to do both. And I would suspect, without researching it, I would suspect that the larger scale farming operations will be very marketable as an entity on their own, rather than something within the Shire per se, do you know what I mean? Like someone who's looking for that is looking for it in lots of places, and it'll be that enterprise will be the thing that is probably their number one priority. When you look at the residential stuff, it's more related to where am I going to live and what's it like. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And the other thing I think is important there is the dialogue we had just before about the size of allotments around the town, because I think it'd be very hard to find lifestyle sort of blocks where people could get involved in agriculture as a part-time sort of thing. That's hard to find. That also would require the same sort of marketing as a residential block. I just think there's a difference between marketing for residents as opposed to, I would put what you're suggesting, I would put that more in the same bag as how do we attract a big business to town. It's not the same, you're not going to do that through advertising and social media as much as you are specifically targeting businesses. So we might set a goal, for instance, to attract one large business, and our action plan might be to find a business somewhere that's interested in relocating and go directly to them. So it's a very different strategy to, say, trying to get a plumber to move to town. Does that answer your question?
There's always work with agriculture, with farming, and people come and go. So I don't know if we can include that somehow, that the farming community had a place they could go to interview somebody. It's becoming quite difficult to get proficient operators. Maybe that could be included in your ad, that proficient operators are hard to come by, and if you think you fill the bill, it might be a job here for you. And we've got some very big operations where there's a career for a person to go up the ladder in.
That's sounding really like we could be doing one of our feature articles just on employment.
Yeah.
You have the North Star, the rail,
Yeah.
and those opportunities. Even the retail people I know struggle to get people.
Yeah.
See, they're going to build a camp at North Star, that's been confirmed, and I don't know what size. I think the application was up to 350. It won't be that big, but it could be a couple of hundred people. We probably should be targeting some of those people too to stay.
Definitely should.
Because they usually got skills.
Yeah. There'll be all levels of skills there, I would imagine.
One of the ideas that I was thinking about some time ago when I first looked at that Inland Rail project was the thought that these people are going to come, they're going to go to that place, and then there's not going to be a sense of connection.
No.
And I thought there is potentially something that we could do whereby we even have activities specifically for them and put on a day, go send a bus out, get them and bring them in, and I think you could do things like that, and I think it will go a long way to engaging them.
Yeah, I think you're right. If we engage with them, they're more likely to get a couple stay. Yeah.
Very good.
It's already been mentioned this morning, but I don't think you can overstate the importance of childcare in this scenario.
You got any kids?
Yeah, I have. And that's about to grow soon. But my personal circumstance, when my wife and I bought the property that we bought now, we looked in White Shire. The reason that we didn't buy in White Shire was there was nowhere to send a 2-year-old.
That's right.
Once we got to preschool age, all well and good.
Yeah.
We've got family in Inverell that can look after our daughter, but that family wasn't going to move with us. So if you're attracting a pair of professionals that have got children and both adults are working, that's a real problem.
And one of the things that could be going on in that survey too, because I think it was the fifth on the list for what we need. But one of the things that could be going on in there is that the demographic of people answering the survey may not need childcare.
Exactly.
That's
So
true.
Sure.
that could be skewing that a bit in terms of its level of need.
Any other questions of Chris? We might wind it up, Chris. I think with that we'll stop for morning tea.
Yeah.
And if you'd like to join us, you'd be very welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
And we'll take a break. Okay, we'll come back to the meeting after morning tea, and firstly can I call for declarations of interest, conflicts of interest? Being none registered at this stage.
Before you move on
Yes.
from that, Mr Mayor, can we have a resolution from the council accepting an email concerning 123 High Street into the confidential session?
Yes, would somebody, Councillor Young move, seconded please, somebody? Councillor Smith, that we include that email in our business paper for the confidential meeting. Okay.
I could have a conflict of interest there through McGregor's. I don't know whether like me to
Righto, well,
leave when we do
it'll
that.
be a non,
Yeah,
a very light one.
I'll
If
record
you'd
it.
like to declare it, Jeff, and
I'll declare it and I'll move out if you want.
well, you won't need to move out.
It won't be
no.
anything like that.
Okay, so we have the committee recommendations from the committee meetings, and you have them there in front of you. I presume you read all that. So that I need somebody to move that we adopt those recommendations.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
That's Carlton, councillor Dick, seconded. Any discussion?
No.
If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour say aye.
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 No. Carried. Item 2, possible change to the code of meeting practice. Would you like to just, I think everyone's read it, Max, but
It's,
It's
well,
a typo, Max.
Typo.
Do you have any concerns about the proposed changes? What are your concerns? And the answer says Gwydir Shire Council does have any concerns.
no, it should be doesn't.
Does not have, yes.
yes. It's just about extending the
Yep.
electronic meeting for a bit longer, as we had during COVID, the opportunity. I've spoken to Max about it, and I think we both agreed that there's no reason why we wouldn't vote yes for this, even though we probably won't do it ourselves. During COVID, everybody elected to meet still. And just an additive to that, an addition to that is that you would have heard the Premier yesterday stated that we go back to no COVID regulations as of Monday, or midnight Monday, with the exception of the QR code will still be required when you enter a building or a business. So that would mean that we'll be able to go back to our normal meeting rooms for the next month, which would be great. Anyway, I don't think there is a recommendation.
It's only, the recommendation is that we put a submission in basically saying that we support it, bearing in mind that it's not mandatory. It'll be up to each councillor to either every council to accept or not accept it into their model code.
Can I get a mover of that recommendation?
Yep, I'll move it.
Councillor Young, seconded. Councillor Smith. Any discussion on that?
No.
There's the opportunity. I can't see any problem with it. We can please ourselves what we do, but it would mean that I suppose on a day like today when you're battling to get a quorum, which has never happened before, but for example, the Deputy Mayor could still come in on, and she could today, come in on iPad and join the meeting.
Well, other than she's at the hospital with her mother, so she probably wouldn't.
No, I understand that, but I'm just saying, if she was somewhere else, it could happen.
Yeah. But
Anyway.
it's not mandatory, it's just to,
No.
so,
No,
do
it's
we
like-
have to choose for the year though, or do we just, if we have a day like today, that's what we would do? So it's an as need basis?
I think in our case, it makes it possible.
Yes.
I don't know that we would use it, but it's
Yeah.
possible. Is there any other questions or
No.
for or against comments? If not, I'll put that motion then. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, no, carried. Thank you.
The activity report.
Incidentally, John, what was the problem with Catherine?
Another fall. Right, the councillor's February activity report. You very happy with that?
Yep.
I move that we report be received. On the mover. Councillor Carlton, seconder. Councillor Dick, thank you. Put the motion, those in favour say aye.
Aye.
It's no carried. Item 4 is the economic and business development presentation which we've had. There's just a recommendation that report that we received today from Chris Turner be received, so I'll get a mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Young and a seconder, please. Councillor Smith, put that motion, those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, no carried. Quite extensive report, and I think that we all understand the frustrations with trying to attract population growth to our shire, but we have to keep going, we have to try. Item 5 is the induction of the Youth Council,
It was
which could not
withdrawn.
have happened. That was
It'll
withdrawn.
go to the April meeting.
And item 6 is a February monthly investment rates collection. Port Helen, you're going to take questions, I presume.
I can. It's just the standard report. It does look like we have good funds in the bank, but of that money, 3.7 million of that is the Upper Horton money that's already been paid to us. That's 75% payment. Alex did think there might be about 800 grand of that spent before end of financial year, but with the floods and stuff, that may not be the case. So at 30th of June, that will be a contracted liability that we have to hold over.
Yeah.
So, other than that, I can take any questions that you've got.
I just missed the point you made, but was it, did you say that there was some natural disaster relief money in there, or?
Well, we've been declared, it's been
No,
declared.
I'm talking about previous to this.
No,
What
We
was-
received, sorry, you
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
take it? We received a 75% upfront payment of the $5 million for the Upper Horton.
Oh, I see, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Did we not, are we not in the running for some funding for road damage from previous rain event?
Yes,
Thought so.
that was a shade over $500,000 from an event around Upper Horton.
Yeah. Around Upper Horton, was it?
Yes.
Oh, because of the, yes.
Yes, that was a January or December event.
Yes. Right.
so I'm not
received
aware
it.
that the money's come in yet.
No,
So,
nothing has.
no. So that's just why our money looks so good at the moment, because we've had that injection of 3.7 million.
It's indicated there as a liability,
Yep.
isn't it?
Yep, I've
That's
got it.
fine, yeah.
That's why there's still no money at the bottom.
Serious?
But at the top looks really good. So just look at the graph and don't look at the rest. It looks really good.
Well, I think it's good that we've got that money in before
Yeah.
before we start the work. It makes it a lot easier, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The rate collection on target.
It is
No.
exactly the same as last year, if you can believe it.
That's excellent, isn't it?
Incredible. Yeah, ratepayers need to be congratulated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any questions? The recommendations report we received, Councillor Young's moved that way, thank you. Second that, Councillor Colton, Sir David Colton. I'll put the motion then, those in favour say aye.
Aye.
No, carried. And that's it for the general meeting, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Is it? In the confidential,
Yeah.
take committee report, council reports as well. So we can do that if you like, go around, and if you want to hold your report over to the confidential session, that's fine. But I'll just go around the room starting with you, Councillor David Colton, council reports.
Nothing for this
Nothing,
meeting.
thank you, Councillor Young.
Just to say that we held the gallery meeting and workshop on the 18th, and Caroline Downer from Arts Northwest travelled over and gave us some instruction about how to hang things beautifully, and all the wider art what are they? Acquisitions.
Yes.
Are now down in the
Good.
courthouse. So we've started that, and we've just got to do some cleaning and a few other bits and pieces. And we're hoping to tie in with Grays on the Guida.
Oh, yes, good.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Councillor Dick, do you have anything?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'd just like to thank the council. I worked on Monday and Tuesday at the RFS. The council assisted us getting caravans and cars off the river. We had an evacuation of an ambulance at Copper Creek, and we had a truck driver stuck between causeways out at North Star. The SES and RFS worked together for the 2 days, and it was extremely busy. As you know, we lost the caravan here at Bingra. But I'd just like the grader driver and the staff have been terrific.
Okay, thank you. Put that on record, thank you. Councillor Smith, you have nothing? Okay. I don't really have anything, I just wanted to make sure you all knew that the Honey Festival's been postponed. The ground was just too wet to hold it on Saturday.
Yeah.
All right, well, with that, I need to go into a confidential session, and I need a motion to go that way.
So moved.
Councillor Colton, a seconder, please. Councillor Dick. I'll just wait, clear the room, and then we'll start.
So,
Now, we need to,
are we back online? The recommendations coming out of the confidential part of the meeting is in relation to staff matters, that the report be received. In relation to the dog breeding facility inspection, that the report of the inspection conducted on Tuesday, the 12th of January 2021 be received and noted. Further, that action be commenced to ensure compliance with the requirements of the existing approval. Further, that the RSPCA be advised that the Council has grave concerns about the operation of this facility and requests that the Council be kept informed of all legal action initiated at this site by the RSPCA. In relation to the email relating to 123 High Street, there is no recommendation, and the following councillor reports are noted: an update on storm damage, an update on the Warrialla bypass. The location of council meetings will be the subject of a further report, and the ongoing use of 47 Hope Street, Warrialla.
So we need to accept those recommendations.
Well, you need a recommendation, yeah, to accept those.
Okay, so if somebody would like to move away, Councillor Dick and Councillor Smith. Should be pretty straightforward. I'll take a vote on it. Those in favour say aye. 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 Carried. Declare the meeting closed. Thank you for your attendance.